here we are. Screen share, you're up there. We are good to go. Welcome everyone to Get Those Cryptos, where we talk about all things cryptocurrency and blockchain related. We try to simplify things here so that you can have a better understanding and that you can apply cryptocurrencies to whatever you're doing in your life, because it is going to affect everyone, no matter what industry you are in. So make sure to subscribe to this channel, to like this video if you've already subscribed, and to get on the crypto train so that you won't be left behind. We got a lot of things that we're going to talk about. I'm, by the way, Austin Patry in Dallas, Texas. Mason is in Hong Kong. Mason, how you doing?
Good, doing well. Good morning.
Good. So we got a lot of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot with regulation, and really a lot of this time leading up to regulation and making some big decisions around cryptocurrencies. Everyone is learning. I mean, we're learning right now. Everything is so new. So I just want to go through some articles that proves this, that there are huge companies, huge organizations who are all just coming out and saying, look, we want to learn. We're doing more research before we make a big decision that could ultimately, have a huge long-term effect on cryptocurrency and blockchain. So we'll go through some of those articles. We'll go through something about Goldman Sachs, and maybe they're trading cryptocurrencies, or potentially they will be, and about Ethereum and what will be deemed a security and how that will affect cryptocurrencies. So without further ado, let's check on CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap got a little bit of a rebrand. What do you think about that, Mason?
I like it. Plus, they initiated and launched a mobile app. So finally, I'm glad they've gotten around to that. Desperately needed.
Definitely long overdue. Is it just for iOS?
I believe so. I don't think it's out for Android yet.
Okay, well, for all you people with iOS devices, definitely download the CoinMarketCap app. And it's actually, there's one that's called CoinMarketCap. There's another one that's called coinmarketcap.com, and that's the real one. That's the one associated with this website. So make sure to grab that. Let me refresh this, get the most up-to-date information. So we got Bitcoin at 9,217. It's gone up 1.66%. Ethereum, Ripple, a little bit over 2%. Bitcoin Cash, still going. Well,
yeah, still making the climb.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm not like against Bitcoin Cash in like any way, like a lot of people are. One of the beauties of open source technology is that you can always fork it and do whatever you want. So power to them if they can create a Bitcoin that is more like cash, as opposed to, I guess, the more digital gold that Bitcoin currently has.
Yeah, and there's obviously the big controversy right now with Bitcoin Cash having the domain bitcoin.org, right? And
yeah, that is a bad thing. I think Roger Ver, who controls bitcoin.org and bitcoin.com and all of that, always misguides the way he pronounces it. So he uses Bitcoin to refer to Bitcoin Cash, which I think is dumb, but I'm sure that'll have problems in the future.
Yeah, I think they're being sued from about 800 people or something ridiculous, and it is deceiving because it literally says like buy Bitcoin here, but he genuinely believes that it is called Bitcoin. So if he believes that, then I see where he's coming from, but it does lead to a lot of confusion.
Yeah, I actually saw a really funny story online the other day, and it was talking about how someone was trying to use Bitcoin to pay for their tab at like a bar or a restaurant or something like that. And the person sent Bitcoin Cash, and the owner didn't want Bitcoin Cash because he wanted Bitcoin. And so he put up like a post that if you send Bitcoin Cash, not only will we not refund it, but we will not accept it as payment for like any goods or services.
Oh my gosh, so you just lose it basically? Maybe they'll send it. Oh, that's hilarious.
Which is really interesting because I feel like, you do get semi-cult like tendencies in like the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Cash community. And so it'd be interesting if people, who were maximalists on one or the other didn't accept contributions from the other respective currency.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with it, so time will tell. And right now the market cap is at 434 billion. It's climbing up there slowly but surely. I think it nearly hit 450. It was around 440, I believe, and it kind of came back down. Bitcoin dominance still going down, but it may be time. Who knows when altcoin season may start and keep going, or Bitcoin might go to the moon and just dominate everyone, take it out of the altcoins. But first things first, like I was saying, crypto, blockchain, all of this, smart contracts is all such new technology. Everyone's on a very similar playing field right now. It's like 1985 of the internet. So if you're watching this and you feel uncomfortable because you don't know that much, don't feel that way, because everyone is on that same field. And there are huge companies and organizations and regulatory bodies such as the US House legislatures. They're holding a hearing on blockchain tech to use in supply chain management. Now, Mason, you know that I'm a big fan of supply chain and blockchain. What do you see the future of crypto, and when it comes to like US House legislators and all these people getting informed about it, what do you see the timeline like? Like, when will we start seeing real world use cases for some of these things?
I mean, I think we're already starting to see some real world use cases for blockchain technology, but as far as like the regulatory stance and US House legislators, I think that's going to take a little bit longer. You do have some places like Wyoming that have created pretty good legislators that are really proactive, but most legislators, they just don't understand this technology. They don't understand the concepts behind it. And I think that there's a bit of a mental block that's really stopping a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different people who are trying to inform these communities and committees about crypto and the potential of it. But of course, with all the negative news and everything, it's difficult to break through that. But here's just another example that Samsung is looking into blockchain for its huge global supply chain. And this was actually announced before this. And one thing I didn't realize is just how massive Samsung is. They said this is going to be the company's IT subsidiary who's really looking into this. And they're eyeing the technology with a view to cut costs by up to 20%. So that is an eye-opening number. If you are a business that has anything to do with supply chain, who has a bunch of inventory, I mean, that's going to get your attention. So that's just one example. There's another here that NEO, this was on their Twitter, they went to a smart economy expo and conference at the European Parliament. And the CEO, the founder of NEO, one of the founders, was giving an introduction of blockchain technology to European Parliament members. So again, these are some of the biggest players, biggest people who are running countries, and they are just now learning about blockchain technology. So we're all on the same playing field. I can't say that enough. And it's just, you got to try, you got to reach out, you got to try to learn and understand this stuff, because it is the future. So there's my little soapbox right there. And sorry, here's another about BMW, GM, Ford, and Renault launch blockchain research group, research. So they're still researching, trying to discover more. Anyways, let's go a little bit into regulation. And here we have the CFTC chairman does not expect to see crypto regulation resolved anytime soon. What do you think about this, Mason? Did you read about this?
I haven't read about this specifically, but I think it depends what you look at in regards to regulation. I think that you're going to start to see some standard regulation that's built in probably the next 6 to probably 12 months, but there's definitely going to be some difficulty, because the 1933 Securities Act is outdated. You can't be using a document from the 30s to deal with a whole new asset class. So I think that he's right in the sense that it's going to take time, and I think everyone's approaching it really cautiously, which is good, but at the same time you're going to need some sort of broad framework developed.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly what he said. I was going to read this quote. He said, the statutes we were operating were written in 1935, and it's often hard to look at those statutes to find out where something as new and innovative as Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies, where they fall in a regulatory regime, which was written decades ago. And so, I mean, you
Yeah,
hit
almost a century ago.
yeah, I mean, that is insane. That, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And it is kind of cool though. He said, I think someone asked a question about current congressmen and how they feel about crypto regulation and everything. And he said, there's certainly an appetite among a number of congressmen and senators that I've spoken to approach this with some new eyes, some new thinking. And so I think there's growing chorus on Capitol Hill for some rethinking here. And this is coming from Crypto Dad. This is the chairman of the CFTC, AKA Crypto Dad,
Yeah.
actually his nickname. And unfortunately, he's going to be stepping down, retiring this 2019 at the end of his term. But rest in peace, Crypto Dad.
We'll get it. We'll get a new dad, a new stepfather.
I hope so, because he's great. But it still just goes to show you that, number one, everyone's still learning, and number two, that I think it's going to take a little bit more time, because the G20, the top 10 biggest economies in the world, they came out and they said they're going to make some type of regulation by July. And I'm thinking that maybe these people are going to make regulations when it comes to ICOs, but they still don't know about Bitcoin and about Ethereum. They still have to do some research because they don't want to mess up. This can be a lot's on the line. Do you think they're going to come out and actually say something about Bitcoin and Ethereum, or more specifically to ICOs? What do you see?
I see them doing both. I think they'll do Bitcoin, they'll do Ethereum, just because they're so popular and they're so well known. Versus, it'd be really hard to pick another, crypto asset and try and figure out something that's lesser known. And then I also see them doing something with ICOs. A lot of countries already have some sort of framework, whether they're limiting to accredited investors like they do in the US, or I believe Canada and Australia also have general frameworks that are used for ICOs. So I see a lot more of that happening, just to protect regular everyday investors.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough to tell. I mean, I don't know why he would say this, because I feel like, he would have some he would know something just being in the position that he's in, but maybe not. Maybe with the G20, I mean, those are countries obviously all around the world. So maybe within the CFTC, there's nothing, but within the G20 and within the International Monetary Fund, there's a lot of different opinions going on. And here actually is a report from the International Monetary Fund. They're actually saying that it does not pose a risk to global finance. Now, I kind of saw this as, yes, a good thing, but also maybe they're not taking it as seriously as some people might think. I mean, did you get that opinion from it?
I think they're taking it seriously. I just think they have really no idea. They don't really have a technical background, or, even a pretty fundamental understanding of Bitcoin and all these other crypto assets. And so while I think they realize that it has transformative properties to the financial system, I don't think that they really grasp the seriousness of how much it can influence the system.
Yeah, I mean, even they're saying it's impossible to know, which this is not only them saying this, but everyone. It is impossible to know the extent to which crypto assets may transform the financial infrastructure, and whether most new crypto assets are likely to disappear in the past episodes of technological innovation. I mean, no one knows where this is going, but it's going somewhere. And it was before, when the head of the Bank of England, FSB, Bank of England, Governor Mark Carney, he said that they do not pose risk at the World's Economy G20 conference. So yeah, I mean, go ahead.
There's going to be thousands of great quotes looked at in the next 2 decades of people saying stuff, and it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, it really is. Like, you already see the CEO of JP Morgan, he called Bitcoin a fraud and a scam, and he's already come back and kind of apologized and said, okay, it's becoming more legitimate than I definitely expected.
Yeah, there will be so many more akin to, I forget who said it, but the person who was like, oh, I don't see a reason why anyone would ever need a computer in their house.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah,
going to be some seriously wrong people.
yeah, yeah. That will be entertaining to look back on. And speaking of banks, talking about JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs to open a Bitcoin trading operation. Now, this is a little bit deceiving, this title, because when I first read it, I messaged Mason. I was like, wow, we got to talk about this. It's about to blow up. But you want to go into a little bit more detail about what this actually means?
Yeah, so they're talking about setting up a Bitcoin trading operation, but they are pretty far from doing that. So what they talk about in specifically that they want to do is just handle transactions. So be able to, you know, buy and sell like derivatives and futures and stuff like that on behalf of their clients. But I think the most interesting part of this article is about, I think 2 weeks ago, they hired someone to run like their Bitcoin trading desk and to really vamp all of this. Yeah, I think his name is Justin Schmidt.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, they're already like talking about this. And so I think that's really the most interesting part of how, hey, if you get someone who knows what they're doing in here, they can really expedite the process. So I'm excited to see what they do, because I think that if they can get, you know, I think they also talk about launching their own future. And if they can do stuff like that, then that's going to be huge. That's going to bring, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars into the market. And it's really going to create a mainstream appeal in a way for, you know, traditional financial industries to get involved.
So it said that they were going to do deals that were backed by Bitcoin, but not actually, they're not going to hold any Bitcoin, and they're not going to give any Bitcoin or sell any Bitcoin. So what exactly does that mean? Like what would a contract or something look like that would be backed by Bitcoin? I forgot exactly where it said, but it said that it would have a backing.
Yeah, so they're just not going to do any custodialship. So they're not going to hold any Bitcoin for, like, I think they're going to sell futures or stuff like that, but they don't want to be responsible for holding it, because obviously the technology for just custodialship isn't quite to their industry standards. I mean, these are still bearer assets, and that's one of the worst things that you could have when you think of a financial institution, you know, something that someone could essentially control or run away with, or, you know, the ability to manage that just isn't quite up to par. Eventually it will be, but so I think they just don't want that liability.
Yeah, which makes sense. And going back to talking about Justin Schmidt, the guy's only 38 years old, and
Yeah.
he was just, from what I understand, he was just at home or maybe at an office just trading. In 2017, he left his job to trade virtual currencies on his own. So, I mean, maybe that is a more legitimate company. I mean, I'm making it sound like he's just in his bedroom, like trading cryptocurrencies, which maybe a
You
possibility.
never know. You never know.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just crazy that they seeked out this guy who was just trading some virtual currencies on his own to head a big project at Goldman Sachs. And like you said, that was 2 weeks ago. And then this happens. Actually, this is a little bit of old news. They did announce that this was coming, but I think they said they were trying to release it in June or July. So that it's just a little bit of an update, but they did say that they're trying to work with regulators so that they can potentially become more of a custodial where they actually have some Bitcoin. So definitely something to look out for. Next, we got Crypto UK Trade Association calls on MPs to regulate cryptocurrency sector in UK. A lot of abbreviations in that. So the Crypto UK is a self-regulatory trade association. It consists of Coinbase, eToro, Crypto Compare, CEX.io, BlockX, CoinShares, and Commerce Block. And so these are really big cryptocurrency companies or trading companies, platforms that are, I mean, they're huge in the space. And it seems that a lot of these groups are getting together and trying to self-regulate. I know this is one of them. There's another one in Korea. Do you see self-regulation working, or is it inevitable that the government or some bigger regulatory body is going to step in?
I think you'll need a level of government regulation. Hopefully it doesn't overstep, but I think self-regulation can work pretty well. it just depends on how it's done. I think that if you get some of the bigger names like Coinbase, like eToro, to essentially pressure people into doing it, I think it could really work. Plus, if you create a standard within the community and people don't follow that standard, then people aren't going to like those projects. So if you had Coinbase and all these other names part of some regulatory group or following some sort of regulatory guidelines, and some other new ICO or new project didn't follow them at all, I think people would be concerned. And I think that self-regulation, regulatory aspects can work. It just depends how they're done, and they have to be set up well from the start.
Yeah, and this group, Crypto UK, is telling these regulatory bodies that they should really be concentrating on brokers and trading platforms rather than the digital currencies themselves. So maybe that's where they could coexist, where the Crypto UK and all these other self-regulating platforms, they are the ones who are kind of controlling the digital currencies themselves and trying to regulate that, while governments are trying to regulate the brokers and trading platforms to help protect their citizens. Because that's what it all comes down to. I've said this in another video. I mean, all these people, these CFTC, the SEC, they've all come out and they just said, look, we're trying to protect innocent people who are trying to invest. We don't want them to just lose money. They're not against cryptocurrencies. And what else here? The HM Treasury, that is the, I forgot what that stands for. Do you know? It's in the British financial.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the British financial department. So they're working close with them, include anti-money laundering practices. I mean, there's a lot going on with there, something to look out for in the UK. Next, this is funny. So South Korea central bank, they announced that crypto and blockchain can be the answer to provide a cash-free society, which they have tried to do. I believe it was either in 2016 or in 2017 payment report. They tried to launch a completely cash-free society. And I mean, living in Hong Kong, living in Asia, we've talked about before, like just, I mean, you can explain again just how big your phones are and mobile payments are. Do people use cash that often?
You don't have to use cash if you don't want to, especially in China. In Hong Kong, you might need to use cash for some instances, but in Hong Kong, they have something called an octopus card, which is basically how you get around, like with the MTR, which is this is the subway, but it can be used to pay your groceries. It can be used to pay for literally almost anything. So they're miles ahead of the US, the UK, and other places as far as electronic payments.
And it's funny with South Korea though, because it was the hub. I think it was #1, like most volume trading out there for a while back in December around there. And then they started to come out and the government said they were going to ban trading. And there was this huge FUD, but it turns out that wasn't true, but they did ban some things. And it's just a lot of people, it's just unsettling over there. And so now they come out and they're just saying, yeah, this could literally be a big foundation of our society of trying to create a cash-free society. And I never really thought about this, but just the actual production of physical currency. Think about how much money countries can save there. So in 2016, South Korea reportedly spent $47 million on just issuing physical currency. You won't have to do that if you have some digital currency.
I think this is also, I was just saying, I think this is a testament to crypto and the community behind it, because South Korea tried to ban it, and then the people said, no, we want this technology, we want this ability to be our own bank. And I think that that's going to happen a lot more over the world. You're going to see if a country tries to ban any sort of crypto asset, the people are going to not be okay with it.
Yeah, and South Korea's biggest exchange, Bithumb, I mean, they're a big player. If there's ever a coin that maybe might go on Bithumb, the price always seems to just skyrocket. But they're really pushing for adoption of digital currencies within the country, like as in a real world use case to create this cashless society. So when you have a big exchange like that, I mean, I'm feeling good when I see these big exchanges like them trying to work with the government or trying to work with South Korea so that they can create something that's really a win-win situation. So that's going on in South Korea. What's the update with Japan? Have you done much research or read about Japan lately? I feel like they've been kind of keeping quiet.
Yeah, so there's been this sentiment that the Japan government wants to increase regulation on cryptocurrency exchanges, and a lot of exchanges aren't really having it. That's why Kraken left. And, because they're requesting like full audits of all these companies, they're being very, I think, overprotective. And, they have some merit to that. They're trying to protect their citizens. But at the same point, I think that they're kind of driving out some foreign players, although there's a lot of local players, and Japan's still a huge hub for the blockchain space.
And so within Asia, would you say Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong, would that be top three?
No, I would say Japan for sure. Korea's up there. Hong Kong's really not as, I guess, forward thinking. The regulations aren't as lax as other places when it comes to cryptocurrency, which is ironic because Hong Kong's pretty lax in regulations with almost everything else, especially taxes.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of who I'd put third.
I mean, if you count, I guess, Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore, China's
big.
there's like two sides of a coin. Like one side they banned it, and then the other they're investing billions of dollars into it. So it's really hard to know what their ideas are and what they're up to.
China's always being sneaky like that.
Yep.
So next, let's talk more about a little bit about regulation and more specifically Ethereum, and is that deemed a security? It's such an interesting concept because they technically were the first initial coin offering, the first ICO. And so if that is true, then it's a security. But other people are saying no, because now they're doing mining and everything, which is something that a security would not be. So what do you think? Do you think Ethereum could be a security? I mean, here, they say it's in a gray zone and that no one really knows where it's at.
Yeah, I think the entire zone is a gray zone. No one really knows. It really depends what they do. I mean, like I said before, they're using, 1930s tests, and one test that they use often to look at whether it's a security or not is called the Howey test, which has, I think, 4 main criteria. It's about, is there an investment? Is there an expected return? Is it part of a broader group? And then I think the last one is it solely dependent on someone or a group or an individual? And so if you look at it from the Howey test, I don't think it really passes most of those merits, because if you say it's completely decentralized, no one owns it, I guess you could make the argument that a decentralized group is a common enterprise, but I don't know about that.
And I don't know what the rules are if you do have, say, like an illegal ICO of some sort, and for a security like they're saying Ethereum might have, but then years and years go by. I wonder if there is some law where after a certain amount of period, I mean, it just kind of, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not sure, but
yeah, there should be a statute of limitations.
Yeah, exactly. Only for Ethereum, but
yeah, only.
The Ethereum Foundation, I didn't even read the headline here. They said they are extremely comfortable that Ether is not a security. That's what the co-founder of the Ethereum Foundation said. So it's kind of a bold.
Yeah, it's bold. Yeah, I tend to agree though. And I think that if you look at around the world, because it's going to change, different countries are going to classify different things as different, securities. Are going to say, oh, this could be a currency, this could be a utility asset, this is a commodity. And it's really difficult because crypto assets comprise of pretty much all the existing types of securities and commodities and all that stuff. So it's really, it'll be interesting to see how they divide it. And that could be different by country, but hopefully it's not.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? It can really be the global currency or this global phenomenon that it actually is, and it's not different everywhere you go. And here I was talking about how Ethereum, they're saying it's a gray zone, and you were saying how everything's in a gray zone, but that 2014 ICO, when Ethereum started, they raised some Bitcoin, and they might think that that's an illegal security sale. So it's just something to think about. And man, we just blew through all of those articles. What else you got? What else you wanna talk about?
I mean, we can talk about anything. I always love talking about this stuff. I think that, overall, if you look at whether something's going to be classified as security, I think they'll get it right. I don't see any government really taking too much of an overstep, so that doesn't worry me as much, but it really is a risk, because you could own or invest some type of cryptocurrency like EOS, and then the government says, hey, this is security, and we're not going to allow it, or we're not going to allow investors to trade it. Suddenly you're doing something illegal, and you're now trading illegal securities, or you're trading an illegal asset. And that has huge implications.
Yeah, and so if, say I did hold some EOS and they deem that a security, would I be able to take it out? I mean, if I took it out, would I be taxed on it or not, because it's technically illegal? I shouldn't even have it in the first place. What would that look like? I mean, if you even have an idea.
Those are all great questions.
Yeah. But I just don't see, like I was saying earlier, the SEC, everyone's just looking out for their citizens. So they know there's a ton of Americans who are involved in this and who own these things. So I don't think they're going to just pull the rug out from under them and just say, y'all are screwed, figure it out. And that's why I think I'm not so sure if regulation is coming as quickly as I once thought it was, because they don't want to make a decision that will affect this and that may have been rushed and have a negative impact on and hinder the technology and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it could take some time. I think you'll see some broad regulation, but anything really specific will take years.
Yeah, seriously. So that about does it. We just blew through those articles. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that definitely go in the description below and check out Mason's Medium. It's a blog posting website. He's been posting some blogs. What was the last one that you posted about?
Last one I posted was about virtual and augmented reality and the potential applications that it could be used for, like a new social media platform with blockchain technology. So I think it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, and we've talked about doing a future video, probably not live, about that. We actually just did a video about the debate between EOS and Ethereum. Some are calling EOS the Ethereum killer, but can Ethereum upgrade and be just as good as EOS, or can they coexist? Definitely watch that video to find out. We can look at the chat. Do you have the chat up here and see what people are saying, if there is any chat? Let's see, people. I see one comment redacted. Is that right?
Looks about so.
All right, well, no chat this time, but next time, everyone come with your questions. We do this live every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So definitely come back, where we'll update you with everything cryptocurrency and blockchain. You want to get on board. So thank you, Mason, again for joining. Got any last words?
Always a pleasure.
All right. See y'all later. Have a good night.